Okay, this is 3.7 Notes and Examples. Our objective today is to graph linear functions. A couple reminders before we start this lesson. F of x is function notation for y. And also remember that all linear equations can be written in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Remember the number in front of x, m, is the slope. And the b is the y-intercept, or where the graph crosses the y-axis. It's one of our solutions to our linear equation. If we're writing this equation in function notation, we'll replace the y with f of x. So what you might see today, these equations written as f of x equals mx plus b. I'm going to start with question 7 on your homework. The graph of f of x equals 3x is shown below. Determine the graph of f of x equals negative 5x. Choose the correct graph below. So they've already graphed f of x equals 3x here on this graph. We're trying to graph f of x equals negative 5x, and we're going to choose one of our choices. Now remember, f of x means the same thing as y. So another way to write this equation is y equals negative 5x. So given this, we know that the slope of our equation is negative 5, which means that our graph should go down from left to right. Well, choice A goes down from left to right, but choice B goes up from left to right. So the correct answer cannot be choice B. Choice C goes down from left to right, and so does choice D. So far we've eliminated one choice. Next, we know that the y-intercept, because we don't see one, the y-intercept is 0. Choice A has a y-intercept of 0. Choice C has a y-intercept of 0. But choice D has a y-intercept of negative 1. So we can also eliminate, actually choice D's y-intercept is positive 1 right here. So we can eliminate choice D. So now we're just trying to choose between choice A and choice C. Well, we know the slope of our equation is negative 5, or we could write that as negative 5 over 1. So that means between two of our points, we should go down 5 and over 1. Well, if I choose 2 points here on choice A, to get from this point to the next point, I would go down 5 and over 1. So I think the correct answer is A. Let's try choice C just to make sure. To get from this point to the next point, I would actually go down 1 and over 5. Didn't draw that very well, but it would be down 1 and over 5. So the correct answer is not C. So choice A is the correct answer because it has the right slope, the right y-intercept, and it goes down from left to right because our slope is negative. Question number 8 says graph the linear function by finding x and y-intercepts. Then write the equation using function notation. The equation is x minus y equals 3. Remember, to find the x and y-intercepts, to find the x-intercept, we're going to let y be 0, and to find the y-intercept, we'll let x be 0 in our equation. So let's find the x-intercept first by substituting 0 for y. So x minus 0 equals 3. That means the x-intercept has to be 3. So the x-intercept is 3, 0. And now I'll graph that over here on the x-axis at 3. To find the y-intercept, I'll substitute 0 for x. So 0 minus y equals 3. I'm going to change my minus sign to plus negative so that I'll remember that the y is negative. So negative y equals 3. But I want to know what positive y is. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. So y is negative 3. So the y-intercept of this equation is 0, negative 3. And that can be graphed here on the y-axis. And then I'll draw a line between those 2 points. You'll use your graphing tool. Next, they want me to write an equation in function notation. Well, remember, function notation is just replacing the y with f of x. So I'm going to erase my work here and then go ahead and write my equation. Remember, to write an equation, we want it to say y equals. So I want to get my y by itself, and since my y is negative, I'm going to move the y and the 3 so that it will say positive y equals. So 3 becomes negative 3, and my negative y becomes positive y. So my equation for this line is y equals x minus 3. But they want that in function notation, so I'll just replace y with f of x. So f of x equals x minus 3. That's my equation in function notation. The last problem I'm going to do is number 16. A private charter bus company charges $1.60 per person plus 20 cents per mile. Complete parts A through D below. Use this information to complete the table below for one person. So we know that there's only one person. So it's $1.60 times 1 plus 20 cents per mile. They're letting x be the number of miles. So I'm going to say that's 0.20. I should put my decimal in front of my 20. 0.20x. So I'm going to replace my x with all of these values that they've given me in the table to find each one. So I'll do $1.60 plus 0.20 times 0. And that equals $1.60. Then I'll do $1.60 times 0.20 times 1. And that's $1.80. So for 1 mile, it would cost $1.80. Then I'll do $1.60 plus 0.20 times 30. 30 times 0.20 is 6. And 6 plus $1.60 is $7.60. Now continue to fill out the table in the same way. Now that I've completed my table, I'm ready to graph these points. Notice that the x values are not in order. So need to pay attention to that as I'm choosing which graph. So 0 and then $1.60. It's definitely not choice A. It looks like they're going by 2's on the y-axis. So 0, $1.60 should be somewhere below, right below the 2. It's not choice B. Choice C, 0, 160 is there. And choice D, 0, 160 is also there. Next, I want to plot $1.80. Again, $1.80 should be right below the 2. Well, that eliminates choice D, because their next point is right above the 4. So it's that point is 1 and about $4.20. So the correct answer is C. If I go ahead and try the rest of those points, it looks like on the x-axis, the intervals are by 6's, and so this is 30, and then it should be $7.60, and if I follow it over, it is right below the 8. Again, we're going by 2's on the y-axis. Then I go to 55, which is, this line is 54, so a little past that line, there's 55. It should be $12.60, and if I follow it over, it is above the 12. And then if I go to 40, which is this point, it's $9.60. So again, it's choice C. Now in part C, I wanted to decide whether the situation describes a linear function. Well, I can look at that in two ways. One, I can look at my graph and see that it clearly looks like those points make a line. So this is a linear function. The other way I could look at that is to go back to part A, and you can see that I wrote an equation for this situation, 160 plus 0.20x. And none of those, and we could put a y equals in front of that, and none of those variables have an exponent greater than 1, so this is a linear function. And we proved it when we graphed it because it made a line. So the answer to part C is that it does describe a linear function. Part D we really have already done. Since it does describe a linear function, they want us to write an equation in x and y that describes the relationship. Then replace y with f of x. So we've already done that. The linear function described in this situation was y equals 1.6 or $1.60 plus 0.20x. So we'll just replace y with f of x and put $1.60 plus 0.20x.